Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 243 based on novel. So let's start. Although Feng Xiongyu wanted to take the opportunity to affect Xiao Yang's mind, he didn't want to be used by the latter. Even if it was only for a moment, with Tianju's step and the wing elephant, plus the close distance between the two at the moment, it was enough for him to launch a violent impact on Feng Xiongyu. What Xiao Yang needed to make this attack was only the mood fluctuation of Feng Xiongyu at that moment. As a result, he succeeded. The speed as fast as thunder didn't give Feng Xiongyu any chance. When he looked up, the strong wind pressure had fallen from his head, and the whole body was as hard to move as being pressed under the mountain. Therefore, Xiao Yang's fist completely hit Feng Xiongyu's face without reservation. Bang! When the fist fell, Feng Xiongyu's whole face was distorted in an instant, and the blood burst out from the whole face. The teeth of his mouth were removed by Xiao Yang's fist. The thoughts in his brain became blank under Xiao Yang's fist, and the feeling of dizziness came to his mind. The whole body flew backward uncontrollably, like a broken sack. They smashed heavily on the stone pillars in the hall and smashed them to pieces. Bastard boy, you want to die. Seeing that Feng Xiongyu was blown away by Xiao Yang's unreserved fist, several of the strong men of the Tianjuang family couldn't keep calm at once. While drinking and scolding, they wanted to rush forward and want to take Xiao Yang down. However, just at the moment when these people started, Murong Hao and other elders of Murong family immediately came forward and stopped these people. At the same time, Xiao Yang didn't stop there. Before Feng Xiongyu recovered, Xiao Yang's body appeared in front of him again. Waving his fists in front of the broken stone pillar, he smashed Feng Xiongyu's body one punch after another. In the hall, there was a loud noise. Feng Xiongyu's body was deeply buried in the ruins on the floor of the hall under Xiao Yang's fist. Whenever Xiao Yang dropped his fist, there would be a dull collision sound, and the reception hall in front of everyone was also slightly shaking. At this moment, the people of the Tianjuang family can be said to have raised their hearts to their throat. They were sent to protect Feng Xiongyu. But now, Feng Xiongyu was so violently bombarded by a human in front of them. They can only watch. This is making them helpless. At this moment, they can only hope that the efficacy of the pill in Xiao Yang's body will pass as soon as possible. Otherwise, once something happens to Feng Xiongyu, I'm afraid everyone present will pay the price of their lives. Bang! 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 The heavy bombardment continued to ring out. The falling of Xiao Yang's fist was like hitting their hearts. Until a certain moment, even Tsangshuan, who had been calm and motionless, finally couldn't hang up on his face. It's really good for people to experience some setbacks, but what he didn't expect is that Feng Xiongyu never got up after being punched by Xiao Yang. Of course, there are some reasons for Xiao Yang, but more reasons are Feng Xiongyu's own mind. From this point alone, the human called Xiao Yang in the field is far better than him. Otherwise, the man who fell to the ground at the moment would not be Feng Xiongyu. Then, Tsangshuan's lips and teeth opened, and a silent whisper quietly came into Feng Xiongyu's mind, waking Feng Xiongyu from his coma. Murong Zun in the main seat naturally noticed Tsangshuan's actions. However, he also knew the identity of Feng Xiongyu. If Feng Xiongyu had any accident here, I'm afraid it would bring real disaster to today's Qingwan family. Therefore, before that point, he must not let Feng Xiongyu have an accident. As for Xiao Yang's violent beating, take power as a lesson. If Xiao Yang really wants to kill Feng Xiongyu, he can't solve it with his fist. With Xiao Yang's nature, even if his anger has already filled his heart, he still clearly understands that he can't bring the top disaster to the Murong family for any unnecessary reason. After wandering the mainland for so many years, his nature and experience are already incomparable with ordinary people. On this point, he is very clear. This made Murong Zun feel at ease secretly, which was one of the reasons why Tsangshuan didn't stop Xiao Yang when he saw Xiao Yang bombarding Feng Xiongyu. Bang! At the moment when Feng Xionyu's mind recovered, Xiao Yang's fist was immediately resisted by him. The source gas flowing wildly in his body immediately turned into a protective mask. The momentum of the whole person rose wildly in a moment. Bastard, give it to me. Bang! However, even if Feng Xiongyu had regained his momentum, Before the angry scolding in his mouth could be completely spit out, Xiao Yang's other fist fell heavily in a more ferocious posture, completely smashing Feng Xiongyu's body into the ground. When Xiao Yang stood up expressionless, the whole hall became silent, and the atmosphere seemed strange and dignified. Everyone's eyes converged on Xiao Yang. Boom! Suddenly, the ground of the hall was suddenly torn by a terrible force, and golden lights shot out from under those cracks. Then, I heard a terrible scream, and a huge bird suddenly flew out, swallowed Xiao Yang, and then completely destroyed the dome of the hall and rushed out of the Eagle Castle. Human beings! Today, I will devour you completely. As the fierce cry sounded again, Feng Xiongyu, who turned into a body, bit hard and wanted to break Xiao Yangxing in his mouth at the moment. However, the fact is not as simple as he imagined. Dang! The dazzling golden light wrapped Xiao Yang's body, and the powerful source qi in his body was pounding outward one after another. The efficacy of the dragon bone pill was still overflowing outward. Although those forces were not enough for Xiao Yang's cultivation to break through the shackles of Guiyuan territory, they were enough to make him invincible in Guiyuan territory. Coupled with his own combat power, Feng Xiongyu was in front of him. It's not enough to pose any threat to him. Ignoring Feng Xiongyu's attack, Xiao Yang tried his best to make a giant elephant decision. The huge virtual shadow stood between heaven and earth like Mount Tai. Then, in the pair of frightened giant animal pupils of Feng Xiongyu, he put Feng Xiongyu's body in his hand from his neck and faced a huge square in the city below. He hit it with all his strength. Boom! In the Blue Eagle City, Feng Xiongyu, who turned into a body, was hit by Xiao Yang, who performed the giant elephant determination, and his huge body fell like a meteorite. He fell heavily on a huge square in the lower square city. The terrible impact directly smashed the whole square into a deep pit in an instant. Feng Xiongyu's huge body, it was also buried deep under the huge pit and disappeared. Who? In the sky, Xiao Yang breathed out a long turbid breath in his mouth, and his chest fluctuated constantly. He shook his hands gently, feeling the surging power in his body. He couldn't help showing a look of surprise on his face. This Keel pill is worthy of being a 6th-level pill. Such continuous and surging power can still make his overall state at the peak even at this moment. As the peak in the later period of Guiyuan territory, Feng Xiongyu is not Xiao Yang's opponent at all. Normally speaking, pills are pills after all. The power obtained by relying on foreign objects will have a huge contrast in both control and operation. However, even so, Feng Xiongyu is still not Xiao Yang's opponent. Being able to do this has proved Xiao Yang's strength. Just think, if Xiao Yang relies on his real strength at the moment, how can Feng Xiongyu have a chance to fight back? Cough, cough. Under the huge pit, the golden light dispersed, and Feng Xiongyu turned into a human again. However, at this time, the latter looked like a beggar. His clothes were broken and unkempt. His whole body was twisted and broken. He didn't know how many bones were broken, and even his chest was completely sunken. A conspicuous huge fist print appeared on his body, the blood had covered his whole body, and his distorted face even made people unable to recognize his identity. Feng Xiongyu at this time, but he really answered that sentence. He was beaten and couldn't even recognize his mother. However, Xiao Yang didn't seem to want to stop. The giant elephant will disappear quietly, turn into a golden light in the sky and dissipate between heaven and earth. With the disappearance of the golden light, Xiao Yang's body strangely disappeared in situ. Almost at the same time, in the huge pit, in front of Feng Xiongyu, Xiao Yang suddenly appeared. At this moment, no one dared to underestimate this thin young man in black robes. The swollen flesh on his face covered Feng Xiongyu's 2 eyes, making him unable to see the scene in front of him. After all, he was also a strong man at the source level. He still found the appearance of the figure in front of him. However, at the moment, he was really unable to respond. Facing Xiao Yang's storm-like bombardment, he had no strength to fight back. Even if he broke free for a moment, he would be defeated by his move. Until now, he felt the horror of the black-robed youth in front of him and recognized his weakness. Yes, whether it's pill or secret method, as long as it can control the power, it belongs to itself and is part of his own strength. In the past, he really missed this point. Then Xiao Yang waved his fist again and hit Feng Xiongyu hard in the face. Human dare you! And at the next moment, in the Blue Eagle City, there was a sharp shrill cry, which roared like an eagle's cry and thunder. When the sound came out, Xiao Yang's fist suddenly stopped. The whole body was out of control for a moment. It seemed that there was an invincible force controlling his actions in the world. Even if he tried his best, he still couldn't control his body. Buzz! In an instant, Xiao Yang's mind was buzzing, and his heart was immediately shocked. He could feel this person's strength. I'm afraid the power of the other party was more powerful than that. Even Murong Zun, the patriarch of Qingwan family, could never compare with it. What a terrible power! Xiao Yang was shocked. With a feather falling over his head, a powerful momentum suddenly landed and wanted to press on Xiao Yang's head. You really don't pay attention to my Qingwan family in my Blue Eagle City. Just when that momentum was about to fall on Xiao Yang's head, a hoarse voice that seemed old and vicissitudes of life suddenly sounded in the Kangying castle, echoing in the Blue Eagle City like a bell, and the momentum that was about to fall on Xiao Yang's head was also virtually defeated. Are you going to stand out for this human boy? In the sky, the fierce cry came again. Xiao Yang raised his head in shock, but was surprised to find that the place where the sound came from was one of the 3 giant birds circling high above the sky. Blue Eagle City is not a place for you to go wild. If you dare to fight again. Buzz! The old voice of words came out faintly, and almost at the same time, an invisible energy wave suddenly swept outward from the Goshawk Castle. The target hit the 3 giant birds in the sky, and the 3 people immediately seemed frightened and retreated to the distance. Obviously, in the face of this force attack, even they did not dare to deal with it easily. Seeing the 3 giant birds retreating in a hurry, Xiao Yang couldn't help showing a shocked color on his face. He could shock the 3 guys back with only an invisible energy fluctuation. How terrible the cultivation of this mysterious strong man should be. For a long time, Xiao Yang in the lower city looked back with lingering fear. He really didn't think that he could meet such terrible strong people in this seemingly barren western region. It originated from the Marshall mainland, but it was really a place of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Even the most barren western region in the mainland was so hard to imagine. On that mysterious middle region, what kind of shocking scene will it be? Then, at the moment Xiao Yang looked back, he found that Feng Xiongyu had long disappeared. Staring at him, Feng Xiongyu was sitting there naked in the street in the distance. A surging force was rapidly evacuating from his body. In the twinkling of an eye, many injuries on his body surface had recovered. There is a surge of medicine in the body, constantly pouring out, and repairing the injury with the naked eye. Well, seeing this scene, Xiao Yang couldn't help but slightly raised his eyebrows. Unexpectedly, this guy calmed down so quickly. Instead of taking advantage of his absence and crazy revenge and counterattack, he wisely withdrew for a distance and recovered his injury with the help of this short time. It seems that Feng Xiongyu is not a fool. He actually realized something in the battle. Aware of Xiao Yang's eyes, Feng Xiongyu's face was still slightly distorted. Then he opened a pair of extremely cold eyes. The extremely cold light flashed through the depths of his eyes. Then, the golden light as dazzling as the sun burst out in his eyes. Xiao Yang, try your best to fight me head-on. A word fell, and the powerful blood pressure was convenient for him to diffuse out of his body, turning into a vigorous qi-like substance, enveloping Feng Xiongyu's body. Feeling the blood breath in Feng Xiongyu's body, Xiao Yang couldn't help but move slightly. At the same time, he couldn't help looking elsewhere. After confirming that there was nothing unusual, he returned his eyes to Feng Xiongyu again. The power of blood. Xiao Yang naturally knows this special Warcraft blood very well. It is just like the blood power of his Xiao family. Once he exerts it, he can also bring great strength improvement to himself in a short time. In this level of battle, once the blood power is stimulated, there is no doubt that he can raise the battle to another level. However, the problem lies here. In order not to be discovered by others of the Tianwei Huang family, Xiao Yang tried every means to cover up the Dragon Huang's blood in his body before he came here, because once the Dragon Huang's blood was discovered by them, it was bound to bring devastating disaster to Xiao Yang. Therefore, in the whole battle process, whether Xiao Yang or Feng Xiongyu stimulates the blood force, it may expose the fact that there is dragon phoenix blood in Xiao Yang's body. However, at the moment, Feng Xiongyu has stimulated the blood force in his body, and Xiao Yang can only hope that this guy will not find anything. Who? With a faint breath, Feng Xiongyu stood up slowly from the ground, and a cold breath was released from his body, freezing the ground around him. Ice Avenue, Ice Field, Qi. As Feng Xiongyu blurted out the last word in his mouth, his toes also gently touched the ice-covered ground, and his body floated forward. At the same time, a piece of cold ice quickly spread over the huge pit. In the blink of an eye, it had covered Xiao Yang's feet. At the same time, the temperature between heaven and earth suddenly decreased. Flakes of ice crystal snowflakes are floating in the sky. The original soft breeze is like an invisible blade, which makes people's skin ache. Then, Feng Xiongyu, who was flying forward, took a hard grip in his hand, and the cold ice avenue immediately condensed into a cold ice halberd in his hand. His body hovered in the air, and the halberd immediately rotated wildly and stabbed Xiao Yang. The Colossus, Kai. For Feng Xiongyu's fierce attack, Xiao Yang frowned slightly. Then he grasped his fists suddenly. The source gas in his body and the strong strength ran at the same time. In an instant, a huge King Kong giant stood between the heaven and the earth again. Dang! The fire burst out, and the halberd fiercely stabbed the King Kong giant, completely condensed by the virtual image, but it seemed as if it had really collided with the iron wall. The gorgeous sparks continued to burst out, and the strong power finally drove Xiao Yang's body back a little, but that's all. In the whole process, Xiao Yang never took the initiative to launch an attack. He resisted Feng Xiongyu's attack with the strength of the giant elephant. What? Obviously, he had inspired the blood force, but found that he still couldn't defeat Xiao Yang, or even destroy his defense. Such a strange scene shocked Feng Xiongyu's heart. Damn! Ice-breaking! Without success, Feng Xiongyu had to find another way. The halberd shook violently and shook Xiao Yang back again. Then he immediately inserted the tip of the halberd into the cold ice in front of him, and then spun hard. He only heard a clear sound of breaking the ice. Then, one sharp ice spike full of source gas slowly floated up and suspended around Feng Xiongyu. With the roar of Feng Xiongyu, countless ice spikes stabbed Xiao Yang with the momentum of breaking bamboo. Ding ding! Countless clear collision sounds sounded one after another. After encountering the giant elephant Jew, those ice spikes, in addition to leaving a shallow white mark on its surface, then broke into a piece of ice and fell down. However, these ice debris fell on the body surface of the giant elephant Jew strangely. Until the end, countless pieces of ice finally sealed Xiao Yang's whole body. A thick layer of solid ice completely sealed the giant elephant together with Xiao Yang, and did not move at all, let alone break free. My move to break the ice is not to use the power of these broken ice, but to use these pieces of ice. After the ice seals the opponent, I will break the ice from the outside. The ice will break. Your golden body will break without doubt. At the same time, Feng Xiongyu's body had already come to be determined by Bingfeng's giant elephant. The tip of the halberd was on the solid ice. With a little force, the whole ice layer was completely broken. At the same time, Xiao Yang's giant elephant was broken. Kill. The giant elephant will be broken, and the power attached to the ice halberd will stab forward without reservation. However, in an instant, it has come to Xiao Yang. It will be inserted into his chest in the next moment. At that time, Xiao Yang will not die, but will turn into a seriously injured body in an instant. Bang! However, at the next moment, when the halberd was only a few inches away from Xiao Yang's chest, Xiao Yang put his hands together, and the powerful force firmly controlled the tip of the halberd between his hands, so that he could not invade any more. At the same time, the fierce flame also burned on Xiao Yang, and grasped the halberd with both hands, coupled with the burning of different fires. Even if it was condensed by the power of the road, it was still severely broken by Xiao Yang after all. Then Xiao Yang looked up and stared at Feng Xiongyu's almost dull face in front of him. He smiled coldly and leaned forward suddenly. Then, the palm covered by different fire was lightly printed on Feng Xiongyu's chest. Bang! The powerful force pierced Feng Xiongyu's chest and back in an instant, and his blood was like a column. Feng Xiongyu's face had just improved. In this moment, it became white again. In his patience, however, a little confidence and courage gathered just now were also destroyed by Xiao Yang in the most ruthless way. The body completely flew out of control, and the hard condensed source gas in the body dissipated in an instant. Feng Xiongyu's mind was blank, and his heart was even more desperate. He didn't dare to imagine that his best shot could not compare with Xiao Yang's palm. Why on earth? Xiao Yang didn't chase after Fei Feng Xiongyu, because he had clearly noticed 3 fierce eyes that wanted to bite people. If he continued, I'm afraid the 3 guys in the sky couldn't help it before Feng Xiongyu died. Feng Xiongyu is naturally no problem for him. In the First World War today, Xiao Yang repeatedly destroyed his self-confidence. I'm afraid it will have a certain impact on his future cultivation. In the future, his small source of Western regions will become a magic barrier in this guy's heart, and even make it difficult for him to improve his cultivation. In this way, Xiao Yang did not kill him, it also reduces an enemy who may become trouble in the future. Isn't it good to do so? Then, Xiao Yang ignored Feng Xiongyu, but flashed back to the Eagle Castle. Until now, the huge power in Xiao Yang began to subside rapidly. Finally, when Xiao Yang supported his body to the cold frost who was still unconscious, his sight suddenly darkened, and the whole person immediately fell uncontrollably on the cold frost. Xiao Yang was pleasantly surprised when he received the news from Luo Jin. He had never met Luo Jin since Chenjue ancient tomb. Over the years, he didn't know how the guy's cultivation was. If he met this time, he would have a good drink with Luo Jin. With a surprise in his heart, Xiao Yang said goodbye to Murong's family with Lung Bingshuang and hurried to Shilin area. 3 days later, they returned to Shilin mountain range, and Luo Jin was waiting for Xiao Yang's return here. When brothers meet, it is natural to have some greetings. Ha, brother Luo Jin, I haven't seen you for several years. I didn't expect that your accomplishments have reached the peak in the later stage of Huiyuan territory. I'm afraid it's only 1 step away from returning to the source territory. When they came near, the 2 men gave each other a big hug, with heroic smiles on their faces. They hadn't seen each other for several years. Their feelings not only didn't weaken, but became deeper and deeper with the passage of time. The emotion between men is like a jar of old wine. It doesn't need any seasoning. Time is the best winemaker. Hey, I can't compare with you. You're a monster. I heard just after I returned to the Western regions that you can kill even the strong ones who return to the source. I really don't know how you cultivate. Smelling the speech, Xiao Yang shrugged innocently and didn't say much. Seeing this, Luo Jin also understood that Xiao Yang had difficulties in his heart. He laughed and didn't say anything more on this issue. Now that you have returned to the Western regions, I wonder if Luo Laro has also come? Xiao Yang's question is naturally Luo Ao. So far, he still remembers what Luo Ao said to him. To completely repair Shenchong ruler and Luo Tianding, he still needs some special materials, but only Luo Ao knows those materials. Seeing Luo Jin back this time, Xiao Yang can't help asking again. However, to Xiao Yang's disappointment, Luo Ao has returned to the central region. Now, Luo Jin is the only one who continues to stay in the western region. If it weren't for Xiao Yang's relationship, I'm afraid he would have returned to the central region with him. Knowing that Luo Ao has returned to the central region, Xiao Yang can't help but be suspicious when he nods. A few months ago, Xing Qian of the Herbalist Alliance also said he would go out. The Lord of the Ghost Hall died in his own hands to arrest him. Now he has returned to the central region together with Luo Ao, who is a force in the central region. Why? Unknowingly, it turns out that these forces from the middle regions have recovered the main forces that have spread out. Is this also a coincidence? However, just when Xiao Yang was skeptical about this, Luo Jin, who had been laughing with him, gradually put away his smile, turned positive and said seriously, Xiao Yang, when I return to the western regions this time, seeing you is just one of my purposes, mainly because of another thing. Hearing this, Xiao Yang immediately raised his eyebrows and had a bad feeling in his heart. On my way back, I heard that Haiyun Palace, a major force in the southern region, is preparing to annex some forces on the southwest border, including Qingyang City. As far as I know, The Liu family in Qingyang City insists on not obeying Haiyun Palace, so Haiyun Palace seems to be planning to attack them. I know that the Liu family has a close relationship with you, so I know that's why I came to you. Sure. As soon as Luo Jin said this, Xiao Yang's face suddenly became gloomy. Qingyang City, isn't that the territory of the Liu family? In addition to him, White Birch is there, and the little girl called Liana, which is another disaster poison. He was originally the apprentice he planned to find for the little medical fairy, and he promised Liu Feng that he would help him guard the Liu family. Now that they are about to be destroyed, how can he sit idly by? Thank you very much. This news is extremely important to me. If you didn't tell me today, I'm afraid I would regret it all my life if I knew it later. Xiao Yang's face showed a solemn look when he hugged Luo Jin heavily. Seeing this, Luo Jin didn't mean to stop it. He could understand the meaning of Xiao Yang's face. If he didn't attach great importance to something, it would never be possible for him to fully express his emotions on his face. What Haiyun Palace is that? This time, it really angered Xiao Yang. What now? Seeing this look on Xiao Yang's face, the cold frost followed by Xiao Yang also asked with worry. It was not until this moment that Luo Jin noticed the beautiful woman around Xiao Yang and felt the powerful breath in the latter's body. Luo Jin's heart couldn't help but be a little awed. He didn't expect that Xiao Yang had not seen it for several years. Not only did he become so strong, even the people around him were so strong that they could recognize the relationship between them as soon as they saw the cold frost holding Xiao Yang's arm. This guy is really aware of this. Rao was in Luo Jin's state of mind. He couldn't help but feel a trace of envy. Go to the southern region. Without any hesitation, Xiao Yang didn't want to think about it. He simply spit out a word. He took cold frost in one hand. As soon as he turned his body, he wanted to take cold frost to Lungsue City. The latter followed Xiao Yang obediently and let him take his jade hand. They quickly flew away from Shilin mountain range. Then, Luo Jin hurriedly followed him in a moment of hesitation. In the distance, on a mountain peak, a little medical fairy in a long white dress looked at the back who was waiting for his return, but left again in the twinkling of an eye. The depths of a pair of beautiful eyes were full of lonely colors. It seems that he doesn't need her anymore. Half an hour later, Xiao Yang and his party rushed to Lungsue City, where the array connected the western and southern regions is located. In the whole western regions, they can enter the southern region only through here. However, when the three came here, the scene in front of them made their faces dull for a moment. At this moment, Lungsue City, which was originally prosperous, is actually a mess. The whole city is a strange silence, as if it had just experienced a big war. There is nothing left in the whole city except corpses and ruins. Lungsue City, which flourished for a while, now seems to have become a dead city. Moreover, what shocked Xiao Yang most was that the transmission array in the center of the city was forcibly destroyed by some force. In other words, now they have no way to enter the western regions. Looking at the scene in front of us, Xiao Yang and his party could not help but show a shocked look on their faces. It's hard to imagine how Lungsue City suddenly became like this. Who was so cruel in the city that he slaughtered the city, and even the most important transmission array in the city was destroyed. Damn it! Who did it? Once the transmission array is destroyed, Xiao Yang's way ahead of this trip is bound to be blocked. He can't reach the southern region. Isn't it impossible to save the Liu family's crisis? Is it him? While Xiao Yang was scolding angrily, Luo Jin suddenly thought of something. His sight suddenly turned and fell on the attic where the cloud pavilion in the city was located. At this time, the cloud-hidden pavilion has already turned into ruins. Naturally, it is impossible to really find out any information. However, Luo Jin can guess that the person who caused all this is the guy who was originally in the pavilion. Zhongyi. On this trip to the western regions, before he separated from Luo Ao, the latter warned Luo Jin to be careful of Zhongyi in Lungsue City. Although he didn't understand Luo Ao's words, seeing such a scene in the city at this time, he couldn't help blaming Zhongyi for all his doubts. I'm afraid the guy who will be reminded by Luo's name won't be a simple role. Then, relying on his huge soul power, Xiao Yang collected wisps of extremely weak black qi on this waste capital. After a while, his face immediately became extremely gloomy. Ghost Hall. The tone in his mouth was extremely cold and spit out these two words. Luo Jin on one side also knew immediately. Only then did he know the reason why Luo Ao asked him to be careful of Zhongyi. I'm afraid this guy lurked beside them under the guise of Zhongyi's body and monitored their movements all the time. It's a pity that even now they know each other's identity, it's too late. The whole Lungtsue city has been destroyed, and the transmission array has been destroyed. They are afraid they can't leave the western regions now. Ghost Hall. Ghost Hall again, even if he had recognized the identity of the other party at the moment, but the array was destroyed, Xiao Yang could only bite his teeth and scold. What should we do now? The transmission array has been destroyed. We can't enter the southern region. The cold frost beside Xiao Yang also clearly felt the rage in Xiao Yang's heart at the moment. When he was worried about this, he had to try his best to calm Xiao Yang's mood. The more this moment comes, the more people have to restrain their inner emotions. Otherwise, once they lose their reason, they may lose more. I can try to repair this array, but it will take a few days. Luo Jin frowned. Speaking of this, it should be regarded as his own dereliction of duty. Now that Lungtsue city has been destroyed, the only thing he can do is to try his best to repair the transmission array. No, I can't wait that long. I must start right away. Otherwise, one more second later will lead to the crisis of killing the Liu family. After the appeasement of cold frost, Xiao Yang's mood was temporarily suppressed, but he didn't place his hopes on the transmission array. A few days is enough to decide the outcome of everything. He must rush to Liu's house before all this happens. Xiao Yang can't wait any longer. Xiao Yang's answer made Luo Jin and Lung Bingshuang dumbfounded. Without the help of the array, how would they reach the southern region? Who? With a long breath, Xiao Yang seemed to have made up his mind. If he had to reach the southern region without the help of the ability of the transmission array, it was not completely impossible. However, few people could do this method. That is, destroying state boundaries. As long as the state boundary is directly broken with the purest force, Xiao Yang and others can completely and freely enter and leave between the two regions before they gather the energy of heaven and earth and recover. However, it is almost impossible to do this according to Xiao Yang's cultivation. Even through the Void Avenue, it is impossible to cross the boundary without obstruction. From ancient times to modern times, all those who intend to cross the state border have to rely on strong strength to break the state border into a gap in addition to the array. Now, Xiao Yang has to choose this way in order to enter the southern region. Brother Xiao, are you? Thinking of this, even with Luo Jin's mind, he couldn't help but show a shocked look on his face. He broke the state border without talking about others. For himself, even if he exhausted all means, there could be no possibility of breaking the border. However, if he was Xiao Yang in front of him, even if he doesn't want to believe it in his heart, he still has an inexplicable feeling in Luo Jin's subconscious mind. It seems that everything is impossible. There will be a glimmer of opportunity in front of Xiao Yang. Maybe Xiao Yang can really do it. At the same time, even the cold frost on one side is also holding a pair of white jade hands, and a pair of beautiful eyes are watching Xiao Yang with worry. She knows Xiao Yang's temperament. Once something is decided, it is difficult to change. What she is most worried about now is that if the state border can be broken down smoothly, but if not, once Xiao Yang is swallowed back, I'm afraid it will be more hurt. Then Xiao Yang didn't say much. As soon as he turned, he wanted to fly towards the south. I'll go too. Seeing Xiao Yang turn around and leave, Lung Bingshuang starts quickly and wants to keep up, but then Xiao Yang stops it. You and Luo Jin will stay here. He will repair the transmission array. You should guard against whether there will be people in the ghost hall here. It's enough for me to go there alone. After that, Xiao Yang and Luo Jin looked at each other again. The latter immediately nodded heavily. Then, Xiao Yang quickly left here at a lightning speed. In situ, Lung Bingshuang looked at Xiao Yang's back. Even though he was very anxious, he could only stay here obediently. Then, Luo Jin also paid attention to the destroyed transmission array in front of him. Although the transmission array has been destroyed, its original formation is still there. As long as the damaged part is repaired, the transmission array can still be used. However, with Luo Jin's current ability, it takes several days to repair the transmission array. On the other side, Xiao Yan flew to the south at full speed at the fastest speed. However, in a quarter of an hour, he came to a natural golden energy barrier. Looking up, the golden barrier did not end. It stood between heaven and earth and went straight to the sky. It was like a wall connecting heaven and earth, separating the two regions in the southwest. From now on, it is also the so-called state boundary. This video will end here.